Welcome to the show, everybody. Super excited to have with me today James Lovejoy. He is the head developer over at Vertcoin. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Vertcoin has had a lot of attention over the last 6 to 10 months. A lot of people have been talking about it. Can you give us the elevator pitch for anybody who kind of doesn't really know what Vertcoin is yet?
So I guess Vertcoin is supposed to be what Bitcoin originally set out to be, which is the currency owned by and for the people. Problem with Bitcoin is mining has become so centralized to a small group of individuals that they're the ones, even now and moving into the long term, that will gain most of the benefits from using the system, i.e. the transaction fees. So Vertcoin is committed to keeping it so that you can mine Vertcoin using the hardware that you find in your local computer store, so that anyone with a modest investment can get started, whether they're friends of Jihan Wu or not. So as a result, we've hard forked our mining algorithm twice. The first time because an ASIC was made for our original algorithm, and the second time because a botnet was taking up a lot of the network hash rate that was driving down profitability for everyone else. So I guess the value proposition of Vertcoin would be that we have a social contract between the developers and the community and the miners, that if a threat ever comes along that makes it so that people can't mine it fairly, then we'll make whatever changes are necessary to make it so.
Very interesting. Basically what Bitcoin has going on at the moment, there's no kind of controls mechanisms, there's no good governance system that's been put in. ASICs have taken over, long gone are the days, of course, when you could actually mine Bitcoin using a GPU. But, there's all these different companies, they're based in different geographic locations around the world. That's kind of decentralization, right? I mean, isn't that good enough? Why do we really need ASIC resistance?
I think the statistic right now is that 80% of the Bitcoin mining occurs in China. So, that's not very decentralized.
No,
but I think it would be impossible to say where lots of the Vertcoin hash rate is, because there are just so many miners. The top 3 miners on the network are all mining pools. And if you look on the set of miners on there, it's just individuals with varying amounts of hash rate.
From all around the world.
From all around the world. So one thing I've often thought about is, what if China really did ban Bitcoin mining and just went in and turned the power off, which they totally have the power to do. 80% of Bitcoin's hash rate would disappear overnight, which would be pretty catastrophic. Whereas I think, with Vertcoin, that would be pretty hard to do, because you'd be going into people's homes and telling them they have to turn their computers off, which
all around the world
is not going to go down well.
That's it. Yeah. If you get the 5,000 guys in China who are mining from their homes, it wouldn't stop the other 95% of the network. And I think you really hit on the nail on the head here, that decentralization is important. And right now, Bitcoin is way over centralized. There's way too much power in the hands of Bitmain, for example. Now, mining's cool. Mining obviously is a great way to secure the network, but why not proof of stake?
Well, I guess it's there are 2 big points here. The first, I would say, is that proof of stake has not been demonstrated to work really well yet. It doesn't have the longevity that Bitcoin has, coming up to a decade now of continued operation without failure that I'm aware of, at least pertaining to the consensus mechanism. Whereas proof of stake, there haven't really been any what I would call successful implementations, i.e. they've grown to be as large or close to as large as Bitcoin. The second problem, I would say, is just to do with what proof of stake is versus what proof of work is. So proof of work is a permissionless system. So what I mean by that is you don't need to have an existing stake in the system or permission from any other entity or group of entities in order to participate in consensus, because all it takes is you going to buy, in the case of Vertcoin, the graphics card, putting it in your computer, and off you go. Whereas with proof of stake, you already need to own some of the coins in order to participate in the consensus procedure. So that is a permissioned system, because you need effectively permission from the market or permission from whoever holds lots of the coins, or in some systems, permission from the existing group of stakers in order to take part. So I guess the point of Vertcoin is, again, to be this permissionless system anyone can participate in. So proof of stake would never really be appropriate for that.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever feel bad for all the video gamers who are, having to compete to try and get a GPU card because everyone's wanting to mine Vertcoin with it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel sorry for them because, again, the prices have gone up massively. I'm hoping in the future they'll come down when the GPU manufacturers are able to get more batches out and fill up their production. But at the same time, I think miners who aren't mining, at least Vertcoin, are just underutilizing their computer. I mean, if you actually calculate it, if you have a 1080, like a GTX 1080, for example, in your computer, you could be buying a Steam game every week with your mining profits. So, I mean, when you put it that way, that's like 52 games a year for a device that you already own.
Mm-hmm. And you're not using all the time.
Exactly. So that justifies the higher price, right? Because it's all of these Steam games that you could potentially be getting.
That's true. I like your way of thinking. Now, you guys have developed the OneClick Miner. Everybody likes OneClick. OneClick and you're done. How's that going? How has it been working?
So again, because mining, the big mining is taking place on Bitcoin, where it's specialists who do it for a living, the tools for mining have completely fallen behind anything that you could mark as user friendly. It's all command line and writing configuration files and stuff like that. So we set out to develop a graphical program which does all of these things for you. So it really is a case of downloading the program, putting in your wallet address, and pressing mine, and off you go.
That's great.
So yeah, the idea is to make it as simple as possible so that gamers can really start mining and make money from their systems.
And help secure the network.
Well, exactly. The more miners you have, and by that I mean the more individuals mining, the harder it is to attack.
Very cool. Now, what are the fees like with Vertcoin? Right now, of course, Bitcoin network fees have ranged from like $90 like 6 weeks ago. I think it's down to about $10 right now to send a Bitcoin transaction. So how's Vertcoin compare?
Yeah, I mean, so Vertcoin's blockchain is by nowhere near full or running at capacity. To start with, we already have 4 times the theoretical capacity of Bitcoin because our blocks are faster than theirs. And we're nowhere near hitting that limit, so fees are pretty negligible. I think it comes out to an average of around 1 cent per transaction. But that could theoretically be lowered. The fee is just there to stop you from spamming at this point more than anything else.
Great. That's fantastic. That's the real problem with Bitcoin right now is for regular people trying to use Bitcoin is the fees, of course. If you buy $100 of Bitcoin and you want to send it to your friend, well, it's going to cost you 10 or 15 bucks to do that. And that, of course, is unacceptable. Now, AMD is bringing out a miner. You guys are working with AMD. I've heard some rumors about that. Can you explain that a bit for us?
Yeah, so since our inception, we've had both AMD and NVIDIA compatible mining software, but those haven't been developed by us specifically. They've been developed by other community members that we're not in contact with. But unfortunately, the NVIDIA miner has become way faster than the AMD miner, so it's uneconomical for you to mine Vertcoin with an AMD card at present. So for the last few months, we've been developing a brand new bespoke miner that isn't based on any previous miner that's in existence, specifically for the purpose of AMD cards. So it's a from-scratch implementation using AMD's instruction set for their cards. So it's not a partnership with AMD as such, but we are developing a miner that should drop in the next month or two.
Pretty cool.
Bring AMD miners up to par with NVIDIA.
Very nice. One thing I've always been impressed with, by the Vertcoin community and the team, led by you, of course. You guys are constantly doing really exciting stuff over there, and I think that's just awesome. You look ahead at some of the things that are going to happen, and that's really cool. And look at back some of the things that have happened, and that's also really cool. Now, let's talk Segwit. You guys were one of the first to implement Segwit. Why did you implement Segwit? Why is it important, and when are we getting Lightning?
I mean, Segwit is a very important bug fix, ultimately. What Segwit did was fix a problem that has been in Bitcoin's architecture since it was created, pretty much. But what it does is it makes programming applications using Bitcoin and their derivatives a lot easier. So the Lightning Network can theoretically work without Segwit, but it makes the implementation effort a lot greater than it would be with it. So we implemented it, one, to fix this bug, because it adds theoretically another 4 times as much transaction space in the block. But on top of that, it allows you to implement applications like the Lightning Network, which we've had running on our main network since, I think, early August now. So I've had a few people using Lightning, doing transactions and what have you. The main problem with it at the moment is it's all still command line. There's no wallets yet.
Right.
There's no UI. So what we're working on at the moment is essentially integrating Lightning Network into a new wallet suite that we're creating. And part of that effort is to make it so that it isn't just a Vertcoin wallet, it's also a wallet for the other Segwit coins that are in existence, or at least the other Lightning Network coins. So we're hoping at launch we'll have a multi-wallet with Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Vertcoin in it, from which you can perform Lightning Network transactions, also on your phone.
Very, very cool. That's really exciting stuff. Definitely. Now, I see that recently the guys over at Komodo have done a cross-chain atomic swap with Ethereum. That's pretty exciting. When's Vertcoin going to hop on that train?
I mean, that's a good question. I haven't actually looked at Komodo too deeply up till now, but there's nothing theoretically stopping Vertcoin atomic swapping with, I think, any coin. The one coin that it would be difficult with would be Bitcoin Cash, because it doesn't have the Segwit fix, which makes the implementation burden quite significant. But at least Ethereum, I'm unaware Ethereum has the problem that Segwit solved. So it's really just a case of someone having a use case for atomic swapping it and then writing the code for it.
Now, why are atomic swaps important at all? This has been a big buzz in the community really for the past few months, but for anybody who really kind of like atomic swaps, what are you guys talking about? Can you kind of go a little bit more in depth about why the whole thing's important?
So yeah, the problem that Bitcoin solved was exchanging money without a trusted third party. What atomic swap solves is swapping 2 cryptocurrencies without a trusted third party, so 2 different functionally separate networks. Right now we use exchanges for this, but obviously they are a trusted third party, and you do put a lot of trust in them. You have to deposit your coins in the exchange. They sometimes, in fact, fairly regularly run away with your coins. It's happened
you can't really trust them. This is the
past.
problem.
Yeah, I mean, they exchange hot wallets for, essentially as a fractional reserve bank as their own money, and hoping that fees will cover the cost. And when that goes wrong, it goes wrong for everyone. So what we're trying to move towards is a system where exchanges literally just provide an order book and never actually take custody of any of your funds. So the actual exchange is happening via these atomic swaps, which are person to person. But the order book itself, like who's buying and selling, that comes from the exchange. So that's just going to be safer for everyone and cheaper in terms of fees.
Very cool. Now, another thing that I've seen that I'm pretty excited about with Vertcoin is the stealth address. So why are you looking into stealth addresses, and why do you think this is an important feature to implement on Vertcoin?
Yeah, so there are stealth addresses in wallets previously to 0.10. But in order to implement Segwit, which we wanted to do fairly quickly, in order to be one of the first, we decided to sort of deprecate stealth addresses temporarily in favor of Segwit in order to bring them back in a future wallet. So we'll be re-implementing those in our new wallet suite when it's eventually released. But the idea of them is essentially to help you use Bitcoin addresses properly. The way it's designed, in order to be anonymous, you want to use a separate address for every transaction that you make. But that's quite inconvenient. You have to log into your wallet, generate a new one, keep track of these addresses. So a stealth address is essentially a single address from which new addresses can be generated. So you post the stealth address in public, and then anyone who sends to that address, it generates a new address for them automatically. So the advantage of that being, if you see one of these stealth addresses posted in public, you can't then take the address to a block explorer and look up who has been sending to the address, because there's no actual relation between, or no relation to an outside observer between the stealth address and the actual addresses used on the chain.
Very cool. You know, I feel like more and more of these implementations will be coming to, you know, basically any coin that doesn't have them. So I'm glad to see you guys are working on that already. Now, I've heard that you guys might be getting listed in the Exodus wallet soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've been included in Eden, which is their beta wallet. So really it's up to Exodus whenever they want to include us in the main wallet, but we're good to go from that perspective. It's really down to them at this point.
Excellent. So if you want to see Vertcoin on Exodus, send them an email, guys. Exodus, where's my Vertcoin?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Now look, there are a lot of coins out there, you know, 1,400 or something at current count. Obviously Vertcoin has been doing very well, but how do you kind of, you know, rise above? How are you going to get Vertcoin to be adopted, to be used by people? How do you go from just being you know, another Segwit coin to being people's choice basically for buying and selling and paying for things?
Yeah, so the biggest thing we're thinking about now going into 2018 is ease of use, bringing all of these disparate components, bringing them together in like a unified experience that people can actually use with a nice UI on it. So part of that effort is working on this new wallet suite, which contains all of your coins and is paired with mobile wallets. The idea being that you can have one unified wallet on all of your devices rather than having separate ones. And as part of that, we'll be working on Lightning Network hardware point of sale systems, so that you can actually get these things into stores so that you can use them when you go and buy a coffee or buy groceries in the supermarket. So I mean that's how we're going to push forward ultimately to become an actual usable currency that you can actually use in your day-to-day. And we think retailers are ultimately going to be pretty interested in something like this because they're already slammed pretty heavily with card transaction fees from Visa and MasterCard. And this is a system where essentially the retailers no longer have to pay for transaction fees. And if you think, transaction fees could probably be around 5% maybe of the cost of running a business, like Target, say. So
it's really about getting that message
to
businesses. If they understood that there's a system where they could be receiving funds and not having to pay the kind of fees that they're paying, I think they'd be very interested.
Yeah, and there are several steps to get there. Obviously, we need to get Lightning Network working stably, and we need to get it working on mobile devices, which is the key, before which, it's pretty hard to convince them that it's worth implementing. But once those things are ready, once the point of sale solution is ready, once we can say to them, look, like this is essentially plug and play for you. You just buy these things, put them in your store, and people will be able to use them.
I like that you're thinking like this. I like that you're thinking, okay, we need to give, plug and play solutions to retailers so that it's as easy as possible for them to adopt using our coin. I think that's really cool. Now you're setting up what's called the Vertcoin Foundation. What the heck is that, and what is the Vertcoin Foundation going to be doing?
Yeah, so right now, as in terms of a sort of entity, we're essentially a unincorporated nonprofit. So right now, there's no legal entity behind the Vertcoin development team. It's just myself and the other developers. So what the foundation will allow us to do is sort of formalize our existence, allow us to hire developers and pay them salaries. Will allow us to get developer accounts so we can list apps on app stores and things like that. So it's really just the next step that we need to take now. We've survived for nearly 4 years being unincorporated, but the nature of the space has changed from a purely technological effort to an effort that requires a little bit more business development as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, I know that currently there's a lot of different donation funds going sort of over on the Vertcoin Reddit and stuff like this, for exchange listings and whatnot. Have you considered making a change to basically get a war chest, a community fund for, you know, out of the mining pool? Has that been a consideration? I know PivX, for
So
example,
yeah,
do
we
it.
don't. Yeah, we're never going to implement anything into the core protocol that like benefits the development team directly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that goes kind of against the ethos of what we're trying to build, because that would imply that there's like one centralized development team that gets all of the rewards, which
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't really be the case. So what we do have is we have, our miner software that we provide has a donation percentage in it, that you can quite easily turn it off or use a different miner if you want to, so you're not locked into that system. Whereas if you take a coin like Zcash, for example, it doesn't matter what you do, 20% of all the mining rewards are going to the development team.
Which is crazy.
Which is a lot. I mean,
lot.
it would be nice to have that level of funding, but I don't think it's... Like, if we're expecting this stuff to be replacing the financial system, and, it goes to trillions and trillions of dollars in market cap, and we're still getting 20% of the block reward, that just seems grossly unfair to me.
Well said. Well said. I like it. Now, final question here for you is the Vertcoin community is a fantastic community. I've, checked into the community a few times and, popped through the Reddits and all these things, and there's just so much positivity going on, so many people who are really excited about the project. And basically, what I'd like you to say is, if anyone out there is interested in Vertcoin and wants to get involved in the community, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, there are several ways. It really depends on what you want to do. But there are loads of people waiting to help you get involved. So you can join our Discord. If you go to discord.gg/Vertcoin, you can join our channel there, and we have literally thousands of people who are totally glad to help you set up mining, or set up a wallet, or get coins on an exchange, any of these things. And if you're a developer, don't hesitate to reach out to one of the development teams, because we'll take all of the help we can get in terms of developers.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, that's really awesome. James, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. I know that there's a lot of Vertcoin supporters out there, so I'm really excited to see this interview. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on.